I'm a big fan of reading your work out loud. I tell this to all the writers that I work with is when you've done the revisions, and you're getting things finalized, whether it's scenes or the final manuscript, read it out loud. That's when you hear what I call the poetry of your words, because we're so focused on the content of what we put down on the page. Sometimes we forget that readers like when there's a little bit of poetry in the prose. And I give an example here on the screen of a client I worked with. And this is a story of a child with her mother in India. They're on a really warm bus, one of those rundown buses going across India. And she has this doll, the stuffed animal, called Kachbu. And she's holding it. And they go over a bump. And it slips through her hand. So she says, Kachbu slips through my tiny hand. And as I read this, listen to the poetry in some of the phrases here. This isn't like a straightforward kind of writing. There's a bit of rhythm there and flow. It's kind of interesting, and it just adds to the feeling of emotion that comes from losing your favorite stuffed animal. So let me read that and just listen for that poetry. Suddenly, Kachbu slips through my tiny hand, dives off the slippery window rail, and cascades into the open drain. Kachbu bobs away in the drain, bobs away in the rain, bobs and bobs away while I watch. Teary-eyed, I glanced at Mummy, who saw what I did. Before I realize, Mummy plunges out the sluggish bus. Someone yells at the driver, "Stop the bus, stop the bus!" A crazy lady jumped out. I strain to look out the window. Mummy runs around the bus towards Kachbu. People gather around me wide-eyed. I shrink in my seat. The driver stops the bus in mid-traffic. I hear loud honks from other drivers stuck in the traffic. Some drivers get off their scooters and yell at our driver. The driver yells back at them. Mummy runs towards the bus frantically, hops on carelessly, avoids the passengers deliberately, and sits beside me silently. She drips water all the way to our seat and breathes heavily as her kurta clinks to her tightly, and the mud soils her salwar and chappals, and water dribbles down her locks into her dimples, and I hear passengers grumble at the back. She doesn't say anything. Her soggy fingers unwrap the dupatta to reveal Kachbu. I mouth the word sorry, and she wipes my tears. I kiss her cold, wet cheek. She breaks into a smile. So here a mother has saved the day, has gotten the favorite stuffed animal out of a drain after the girl drops it over the rail or out the window of a bus in India. But did you hear that kind of poetry there as I was reading? It's a little overdone with some of the adverbs. So when she talks about she breathes heavily, the kurta clings to her tightly, the mud soils her, or is it? Yeah, right there, that part, before the mud soils. So I would probably remove these. That was a bit much. But there is an interesting flow there in the structure of the sentences. And I really like this first line. Kachu bobs away in the drain, bobs away in the rain, bobs and bobs away while I watch. Doesn't that show the stuffed animal just kind of almost disappearing? So think about that when you're in the revision stage. You've got everything down. Maybe add in some lines where you play with the language. You become a bit of a poet and not just a prose writer, not just a factual, concrete prose writer, but you add in a few of these. And I think the reader will appreciate that you've tried something a little bit different in the way you've structured your sentences.